Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This evening I'm going to tell a story of devotees in the Vallabh Sampradaya about a little less than 500 years ago. So in the Vallabh Sampradaya they mostly concentrate on home worship. They worship forms of Krishna in their homes. In our Gauriya Vaishnava Sampradaya we emphasize more on coming together, chanting the holy names together and preaching together. Now in the initiated devotees, they'll worship Krishna at home and they'll think of, this is my Krishna, this is like this. So there was one woman from Gujarat. She was the daughter of a rich merchant. She was married, but her husband died 2 months after the marriage. And a month later, the Acharya of that Sampradaya came from Gokul, Mathura, to that area in Gujarat. And the merchant and his daughter, who was living at home with him again, they became disciples. And the daughter, she was given a form of Krishna to worship. Now the young girl, she was very simple and devotional, and she asked the Acharya, is this what Krishna really looks like? So she was given a form of Krishna, standing, blackish form, holding the flute. And the Acharya said, yes, this is Krishna, this is exactly Krishna. So you become completely attached to him. So he showed how to worship the deity. Now eventually her parents died, and they were a merchant's family, so they had some accumulated wealth. Yeah, thank you. So she just remained in the house with one servant and lived on the accumulated wealth. She lived simply, and after some time she sent the servant away also, and she just stayed alone and she worshipped Krishna. She would do seva, that means all the archan and puja and offering food. She would do that twice a day. And if there's any visiting devotee, in the evening she would read devotional literature. And if any devotee visited, she served the devotee. Now once a group of traveling vairagi, renunciant devotees arrived in that town. No, they weren't all renunciants, but in that group was one renunciant. And they were on yatra, they were on pilgrimage, they were going to Gokul, they were going to see the Acharya. And this renunciant, he worshipped Krishna in the child form, just crawling Krishna. We usually call that form Ladu Gopal. He's holding the Ladu. So they arrived late one afternoon. It was a cold, raining day in the winter. And the group, they camped just outside the town. There was one lake. Now all the others had tents to stay in, but the renunciant, he's just a vairagi. He didn't have anything. He only had Krishna. So he didn't have any tent to stay in. So everyone was doing their seva to their deities of Krishna in their tent, but he thought, well, what can I do? I can't cook, I can't do anything in this rain. So he went into the town and was looking if there's any devotee who could help him, give some shelter and he could serve his deity. So in the town he met one devotee who advised him to visit this old woman who is all day performing service to the deity, and she likes to welcome devotees in her home. So the Vairagi went there and explained everything, and she welcomed him. And the woman said, yeah, you bring your child Krishna. He said, I have my child Krishna. You bring him. She said, I just finished cooking and I'll offer bhog both to your Krishna and my Krishna. She said, so in about an hour I'll finish all the procedures, so in the meantime She gave him some dry clothes, said, if you have anything to do, you can go and do, come back in an hour, and then you have darshan. So the old woman opened up the box, the deity is kept in a box, and she saw the golden color form of child Krishna. She thought, this isn't Krishna, because when she got the deity from the Acharya, she asked, is this what Krishna looks like? He said, yes, this is Krishna. So her Krishna is standing up straight, not very straight, threefold bending form, but holding a flute and blackish. And this form is crouched down and golden color. So she wondered that, what's this man doing to his Krishna? You see, he's renounced and he's wandering here and there in the cold weather, and he's not looking after Krishna properly. So Krishna's become all bent up and he's lost his proper color. So she told Krishna, you see that man who's serving you, he's a big fool, he's not looking after you properly. So she prepared some medicinal oil. She got some oil and heated it and put some herbs, and she started rubbing it on this Krishna. And then she put him in a warm bed and massaged him. And she was feeling very sad that, oh Krishna, you see, you're suffering so much in the cold and you became all bent up. And she was wondering, why did our Acharya give you to such a fool of a disciple? So she told this, now you've come here, I'll look after you. You don't bother with going back to that renunciant. So this baby Krishna was thinking, you see, this woman is so pure-hearted, she has such feeling for me. If I don't take the form that she thinks I should be in, then she'll never leave me alone. And all the offerings she made for lunch will become cold, and her own Krishna will have to suffer. She's forgotten about her own Krishna, who must be getting hungry. So then, So in response to that woman's devotional concern for him, he straightened up and became black in color. And now he's not holding a lardu, he's holding a flute. And the old woman is very pleased. So she fed both the deities, and she quickly made some warm clothes for that deity, and she placed a warm stove next to him, and she offered him all kinds of medicinal food to make him warm up. Said, and anyway, you stay here for some days, I'll feed you nicely later, but for now I'll give you medicinal food, because you have to get your strength back again. She said, don't worry, I'll look after you, I'll keep you here throughout the winter, so you don't have to suffer anymore. So the renunciant returned, and he had darshan of the two Krishnas while the old lady offered the arati. But because his deity was quite small and on the altar, and she'd covered him in all warm clothes, he couldn't recognize that his Krishna looked different. So the old woman gave the renunciant prasad, and she put the two Krishnas to rest, and then and like that she served that devotee. And then at night they were talking of all the topics about Krishna until late at night. And the renunciant thought, this woman is a very good devotee. And then she arranged for that renunciant to rest. And the renunciant said to her that I'll get up early in the morning and our group will be leaving. So that time you be ready and return my Krishna. And she said, you should stay here at least 5 or 10 days. She said, it's very cold outside and your Krishna is very comfortable here. And he said, are you crazy? I have to go. I have to take my Krishna with me in the morning. And then the woman said, you see, you're a disciple of our Acharya, but you've mistreated your Krishna. He was so sick he became all squashed up. I had to massage him to make his legs come proper. Let him stay here now until the spring, and you can go later to Mathura. He said, what are you talking about? You must be crooked, not my Krishna. I only brought him here for 1 day. Now why do you want to keep him here? And she said, well, you can do whatever you like. But I'm just concerned about Krishna. But in this cold, your Krishna will again get sick. Who will be there to look after him? You see, I have a nice home, and I can give him nice oil and herbs and nice medicinal food. You won't be able to look after him so nicely. Then the renunciant said, you don't know what you're talking about. Krishna removes the pain from the whole world. How can you say that Krishna is suffering? Krishna is satisfied with whatever he receives. He doesn't need all this, he doesn't demand all this opulent treatment. So then the old woman said, you see, you have no intelligence. You have no idea how to look after Krishna. That's why he became all crooked. He blessed me by coming to my home, and he gave me the opportunity to serve him. But he is your Krishna, so if you want, you can take him in the morning. So both of them, they went to their respective beds, but neither of them could sleep. The renunciant was thinking, what am I going to do? Is she really going to give me my Krishna, or will I be able to take him away from her? And the old woman couldn't sleep. She was thinking that, doesn't this man see that it's so cold and Krishna is going to become sick again? He doesn't have anything to look after Krishna properly. He doesn't know how to look after him. He's going to see our Acharya, but our Acharya will be very displeased when he sees how his Krishna has become all crooked. So both of them got up early, and then he said, I'm going to go and bathe at the lake, then I'll come and take my Krishna. So they both bathed, and she offered Krishna breakfast while the renunciant was a little distance bathing at the lake. Then she put the renunciant's Krishna back in his box, and she put lots of warm clothes. But she was actually very upset, and she didn't really want to give him. So when the renunciant came, she gave the box and said, she gave some instructions how to look after him and give him warm food and warm clothes. She said, you watch out. You see, I can tolerate your mistreatment of Krishna, but I don't think our Acharya will. And renunciant, he doesn't know what she's talking about. What's all this about Krishna being crooked, and what's she talking about? He can't understand at all. He said, anyway, I want to touch my Krishna's feet. So he took the box and he opened it, and he went to touch his Krishna's feet, and he saw it's not his Krishna. He said, "What happened? You swapped. You didn't give me my Krishna back. You gave another Krishna. What's going on?" And she said, "Yeah. What are you talking about? Another kind of Krishna?" And he said, "You say my Krishna's baby Krishna. What are you talking about? There's only one type of Krishna. You see, it's only because you mistreated Krishna that he turned yellow and became crooked. Otherwise, he's black and he's standing and playing a flute." He said, "This is too much, The people, the group I'm traveling with, they all know what my deity looks like. Let's go and see them." So they went to see that group, and they all said, "Yeah, this isn't his Krishna. He has a golden Krishna." And the old woman thought, you see, these people, they're all his friends. They're all siding with him. And then the renunciant became very angry and said, "Look, you better bring my Krishna. What are you doing?" And then the old woman took his Krishna and back to her house and said, "What am I going to do? You made all this big mess here. Now what am I supposed to do?" Then that Krishna said, "Well, I think only the Acharya can settle this. So you better go with the group too, and go to Gokul with them, and then see what he says." And the old woman said, "You see, you can go. You're used to traveling with this renunciant maybe, but my Krishna, he's not used to going out in this cold weather. How can I bring him out in this cold weather?" But the renunciant's Krishna said that, "Well, you bring extra cloth, and you make arrangements and bring warm clothes, and let's go." So the old woman told the renunciant that, "I think this can only be settled by our Acharya, so let's go." She arranged a cart, and she brought plenty of warm clothes and warm food and medicine. And along the way, because it takes quite some time to go, and they would fight every day, these two. And the renunciant would say, you see, you stole my Krishna, and where's my Krishna? I was serving my Krishna all my life, now where is he? Saying, what are you talking about? What kind of service? You're mistreating Krishna. So eventually they reached Gokul, and they met the Acharya, and the renunciant said to him, you see, this is what happened, this old woman, I don't know what's going on, she changed my Krishna, or she doesn't want to give back my Krishna, or what's going on? And the woman said that to the Acharya, he said, Maharaj, please don't give Krishna to people like this. He's no sense. He's a renunciant and he can live in the cold, but you see, he subjected Krishna to this, and Krishna's suffering so much. And Krishna became all crooked, but by treatment I've brought him back to the proper condition. So the Acharya asked that, okay, bring me his Krishna. She said to the woman. So she brought the deity, and the Acharyas took the deity and said to the woman and the man, he said, you both wait here. And he took this Krishna into another room and said, hey, what's going on? What's this all about? So then the Krishna explained everything, what had happened. He said, actually, this woman's, her parental affection is very strong. I'm very satisfied with her service. So the Acharya came out and told the renunciant, they said, actually, this form of Krishna is your Krishna. And she became transformed by the devotion of this woman. And if you want, I'll arrange for another form of child Krishna for you. And the renunciant, he understood the whole situation. He said, I worship Krishna all my life, and nothing like this happened to me. Because I just gave this woman my Krishna, and then immediately in less than one day, Krishna reciprocated with her in such a way that Krishna changed his form because of her devotion. So the Acharya explained that, you see, Krishna's like that, Bhakti is like that. You see, a person can worship Krishna throughout their life, or even in many lives, but if there's no pure love, then Krishna doesn't reveal himself. But to his pure devotees, he reciprocates immediately. So then the renunciant bowed down at the old woman's feet, and he said, I couldn't recognize my own Krishna, and I made so many offenses to you, fighting with you all the time. You see, I wasted my whole life. I couldn't get such reciprocation from Krishna. And the old woman said that, well, actually you've been very kind to me, because by your grace I got darshan of our Acharya, I came to Mathura, I can see Yamuna, all these things, which otherwise I would not have done. So we can understand that Krishna is very kind, and He's very kind to his devotees, and everything he does is for the good of his devotees. So we see this was a quarrel between devotees arranged by Krishna, so that both of them, ultimately their realization of and devotion to Krishna increased. The woman said, actually, you see, you're praising me, but you see, you were fighting all the time, but it was only for the sake of Krishna. You wanted Krishna. You are so angry with me because of Krishna. But still, I've become attached to your Krishna also. So if you like, I'm just suggesting, you can, our two Krishnas can stay together, and we can serve them together. Then I can get your association also. So then, he said, you see, you're a great devotee, even though I was so much against you, you didn't bear any grudge against me. So the Acharya blessed them and said, yes, this woman, she should worship the two Krishnas, and the renunciant, he can also assist in that, as long as she lives. So they visited all the places of Mathura and eventually went back. So that's the end of the story. So there are many such stories like this. How Krishna, we find in Chaitanya Charitamrita also that the deity who walked all the way from Vrindavan to South India to bear witness for his devotee, Sakshi Gopal. His devotee told the deity of Krishna Pratima nahatumi sakshat Rajendra Nanda. When the devotee told him, now you have to come to South India with me, the deity said, how can I walk? You see, and the devotee said, well, you're talking to me. If you can talk, you can walk. So he said, Pratima nahatumi. He said, you're not a statue, you're directly Krishna. So, as Srila Prabhupada said when he was installing deities in Los Angeles, that if you think this is a brass-made idol, then he will remain like a brass-made idol forever. But if you appreciate that this is Krishna, then Krishna, actually he's come, he wants to talk with you, he will talk with you. And Prabhupada gave the example of Banshidas Babaji. Banshidas Babaji was always talking with his deity. So this is the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness. Actually, this is the normal state of Krishna consciousness, but because we are in this material world, we are not in our normal condition. It's normal to talk with Krishna and eat with Krishna and dance with Krishna, but because we're in an abnormal condition, we think that it's unusual to do so. But anyway, we should go on talking to Krishna by chanting the Maha Mantra, talking to Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by this sadhana, we'll become purified. Hare Krishna. There's a nice narration I thought I'd share with you. There are so many instances of so many pure devotees, so many wonderful ways they have served Krishna. That is going on in the present day also. In the present day we put more emphasis on, as I said, going out, preaching and bringing people to Krishna. And we can appreciate the reciprocation of Krishna in these activities. Just like last night, there was so much enthusiasm we saw in the program. People are so much anxious for Krishna Bhakti. So especially at the present time, we're not just going to worship Krishna for our own benefit, but we have to go out and preach the message of Krishna. And our happiness in Krishna consciousness will be to see others take up Krishna consciousness. Is there any question? Taking so many notes. What will you do with all these notes? You go and you read it all again later? That's it. Alright. Yeah, you want to speak in the mic? Next time I come, maybe you'll be able to speak in English and translate yourself in Tamil. We're looking for that.
By your mercy.
Yeah, that's how you start. You start and gradually more and more. Speak. Yeah.
Here we see that in this narration that renunciant and lady are associating, and also from Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. They are coming to Sachimata's home, different devotees. I cannot understand properly how this in society, because we are so much accustomed not just come to one place.
Yeah, it's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that one sannyasi devotee, he mentioned to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he remembered in Navadvip at the house of Jagannath Mishra how Shachi Mata, she used to serve the sannyasis with such affection like a mother. Who is that sannyasi? Well, I can look it up. Yeah. Go on, I'll look it up. Rangapuri, Rangapuri, disciple of Madhavendra Puri. He went, he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Pandharpur. Rangapuri had gone to Navadvip quite some time ago with Madhavendra Puri. And she must have been quite young at that time, Shachi Mata. But it said that Putra Shama Shneha Karen Shanyashi Bhojane. She treated the sannyasis like her sons and giving them prasadam. So it's said that the sannyasis, they're like the children of the householders, because they depend on the householders to maintain them. So it seems that that's acceptable if the feeling is pure. On the other hand, when Chota Haridas, who was a renunciate, he begged some rice from Madhavi Devi, who was an older woman, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he rejected Chota Haridas for that. No, the Madhavi Devi she wasn't a Grihastha. She was also a Vairagini, it said. Actually, it says she was very renounced. I don't know if it says she was actually, but there's no mention of her husband, any such thing. Just her two brothers, Shiki Mahiti and who's that? Murari Mahiti. No, Haridas Thakur is Bora Haridas, and there's Chota Haridas. He's not called Chota Haridas Thakur, Chota Haridas. That's all. His name is Chota Haridas. Chota Haridas. Now it's specifically mentioned that she, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that she was elderly, she was very renounced and very devoted. Prabhupada suggested that there may have been some younger woman present there, and Chota Haridas had some lustful feeling toward her. But for that mental infringement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected Chota Haridas. Don't let him come and see me ever again. Completely rejected. He was never allowed to come and see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ever again. So he would just offer a pranam to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from a distance. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't even listen to his disciples trying to say, look, can you be a little kind to Haridas? He said, if you say like this again, I'm going, and you won't see me ever again. So he's completely strict about this. So after 1 year with no sign of any change in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's strictness in this regard, Chota Haridas went to Prayag and drowned himself. No, Prayag. So he was so strict. So he would seem to depend on the bhav. Ishwara Puri also stayed in the house of Jagannath Mishra when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there as a young man. Ishwara Puri, who later Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from him. So it may be that some interaction at some level is there. It's not that there's no interaction, but it's very, very restrained. We've heard of some so-called Paramahamsa from Tamil Nadu in the modern age who says, I see no difference between men and women, and on that basis he dances with young women. So everyone can understand this is bogus. Yeah.
One side we say that this kind of happens, that we say that the Vikasa devotee says that it's our duty to feed the brahmacharis and sannyasis. But on the other side we can see that some brahmacharis taking advantage of this thing when they begin to associate so much with the Vikasa devotees. Gradually they become Vikasa devotees. The Vikasa devotees with good love they are giving, but for them it's very difficult to just you are saying about the bhav. With the brahmacharis and sannyasis, if in the correct mood they take their association, both will get benefit. But actually the Vikasas, they are not able to discriminate that whether this brahmachari is coming in the correct mood or not.
Yeah, therefore a brahmachari should always be under the guidance of a sannyasi. Srila Prabhupada discusses this in his purport in the Upadeshamrita, in this Bhunkte Bhojayate Chaiva. He said that sometimes our life members like to invite our devotees, but devotees, they shouldn't take advantage to indulge in luxurious foodstuffs. It's supposed to be a spiritual exchange. Srila Prabhupada writes in the 4th canto about so-called renounced devotees taking advantage of opulent foodstuff in the name of prasad, and in this way they become victimized by Kamadev. So in general it's better if brahmacharis, they live very simply, eat very simply, and occasionally they can reciprocate the desire of grihastas to serve them by taking some prasad arranged by them. But if the mood of enjoyment enters, then brahmachari life is finished. Personal enjoyment, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned. Yeah, I'm going to say a verse. Jiba laloshe jay iti uti dhai shishno dar parayan Krishna nahi pai. One who, for the greed of the tongue, who wanders here and there looking where is there some nice food, he comes under the control of the belly and genitals, and in this way he does not attain Krishna. So sadhu savdhan, while taking prasadam, devotees, they sometimes call out sadhu savdhan, be careful. Sadhus, be careful. In one letter, Srila Prabhupada talking about prasad, he said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took, but on principle he was avoiding.
Carrier.
Yeah, give the mic.
Maharaj, so brahmachari position is okay. What about grihasthas? How to approach brahmacharis and sannyasis? What about their position?
What's the question? What's the question?
He is asking that when we are saying brahmacharis, they have to be so careful. If their mood is not proper, they should not go very near to accept the invitation from grihasthas. The same way he is saying, when the grihasthas also, when they are trying to take brahmacharis, when they are trying to invite brahmacharis, or when they are going to take association of brahmacharis and sannyasis, how they have to be also so careful. We can explain on this point.
Why they might become sannyasis? They're afraid. They're afraid they become sannyasis, or the sannyasis might take their sons. Anyway, the grihasthas, they don't have to be very careful. How we can all better serve Krishna, that is the motive. One who is in a renounced position, he has to maintain that. It doesn't look very good if one is in the dress of a renunciant but not living a very renounced life. Grihastha, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, has a license for sense gratification. It means if they live a little comfortably and eat nice food and this and that, that's all right. There's different allowances for different ashrams, but the point is that we should all serve Krishna. The central point is that we all have to serve Krishna. The proper etiquette between brahmacharis and grihasthas has to be observed. At the same time, we don't want to make it such a big thing that, the grihasthas and the brahmacharis, they become like completely separated from each other. All devotees should respect each other irrespective of ashram, or whether they're male or female or whatever.
Guru Maharaj, when Akinchan Prabhu was in Kuwait, we had the Srimha Chaturdashi festival here. So the one practical question, there was different opinions. There was a big mela in Tiruvannamalai, or where is it? This is once a month, so many people come. Once a year. So devotees, most of the temple devotees, they went to book distribution there. And here was not such big attendance for the Srimha Chaturdashi. So what is the proper to be on the festival or to go to the preaching?
Well, preaching is also pleasing. Yeah, Tamil saying it. Yeah, the festival should go on, but if there's a special opportunity for preaching, then that should go on also. It's just like Janmashtami, we could celebrate it by just, reading Krishna book all day and chanting lots of extra rounds, but it's like practically the biggest preaching day of the year, so we take advantage of that for preaching. Why should we celebrate it only for ourselves? We can involve the public. So generally, if there's some special opportunity for preaching, we should take that. If there's not any special opportunity, then we should concentrate on the festival. That means if it's just ordinary book distribution on that day, then we can celebrate Janmashtami and then go for book distribution on other days. Once I was, for some time I was on traveling book distribution, Sankirtan in Malaysia, myself and Prabhu Vishnu Swami. So on the morning of Janmashtami, he went back to the temple because he was a sannyasi, I was a brahmachari at that time. And I said, well, I'll just do some book distribution in the morning and I'll come later. And I just found some tiny little place where we'd never done any, I don't think devotees ever been there before, some small town. And it was all Chinese people, and it was actually quite a rich town. There was some mining or something there. Small, very small place. And actually everyone took books, and I spent the whole day there. And I got my highest score in Malaysia at that time. I collected over 600 Malaysian ringgit, which was about 6,000 rupees or something at the time. So I went all day, and then in the evening I drove back to the temple, and I just got back in time for the midnight Abhishek. It was a very blissful Janmashtami. I mean, definitely, when you're out there and everyone's taking books, then I didn't think I should go back to the temple. If there hadn't been that kind of response, then I would have gone back earlier. So there's a personal anecdote too. For some time, I was doing traveling Sankirtan in Malaysia with myself and Prabhu Vishnu Swami. And there's one other devotee. He was driving and doing the shopping and cooking, and just us two, we'd travel around like that. It was nice. They don't know Prabhu. They've never heard of Prabhu Vishnu Swami. You must have seen him in Mayapur or something. He's very good at book distribution. He'd always do more than me. I was pretty good too, but he would always do more than me. Sometimes I did more than him. I was only able to beat him in that we had a pre-Janmashtami marathon. I was only able to beat him by doing one extra day, having a good score. So, Krishna is pleased with this preaching.
Maharaj, while preaching, we expect more devotees. It is correct or not?
No, well, definitely that's the aim. We're not just building buildings. There are so many people building buildings. There's so many people selling books. On the train, there's always someone selling some books, isn't it? Selling novels and magazines. If you go on the express train, there's always someone selling some useless books. So we're not book salesmen or construction experts or contractors. building contractors. We're interested that people take up devotional service. In one sense, we can't make devotees because everyone already is a devotee, just that everyone forgot it, that's all. So we don't think, I'm making devotees, but we're just serving the mission of the acharyas and praying that people take up this life of Krishna consciousness. So you can speak in the mic? Is it long enough?
No, you can speak. So in the recent trend, the homosexual activities have increased. Many of my patients also coming. And in the Western countries, even Christian churches, there is a homosexual church itself. Like that, what is our Krishna conscious? Whether we are recognizing it.
Homosexuality. You're a doctor, is it?
What is our approach to that?
You're a doctor, is it?
Yeah.
Psychologist or what?
Psychologist.
Psychologist. And more people are coming and telling you that they're homosexuals. It's increasing. What's the Krishna conscious approach? Well, one reason it's increasing is because it's being promoted. If it wasn't promoted, it wouldn't be increasing. What is our approach is controversial within our movement. Basically, we understand that as Srila Prabhupada wrote, the homosexual appetite of one man for another is demoniac. Of course, the heterosexual appetite of man for woman and woman for man, that's also not spiritual. It's opposite to the tendency of the soul, which is to be attracted to Krishna. I wrote about this in my book on brahmacharya, that the heterosexual attraction, that's also a perversion, and homosexuality is another twist. It's like more perverted. So our stance should be that we cannot allow this or condone this in devotional life. Heterosexuality that can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. One can be a grihasta and have children in Krishna consciousness. But homosexuality, that's not allowed, not to indulge in that. So someone may have this tendency and they can chant Hare Krishna and be a devotee, but there's no allowance for engaging this tendency. There's a lot of propaganda that it's normal, it's good, there's nothing wrong with it, but this is absolutely adharmic. Yeah, in some Christian churches they have marriages between men and women and women. It's bizarre. That means any society that condones this is doomed. Cannot last long. And I personally think it's quite likely that the Western civilization will collapse under Islam, will take it over, because they're against this. They have some strength. They're very clear on this matter, and people will either become homosexuals and they'll become very weak. They won't have any strength to resist anything, or they'll become Muslims. People, it's better to be a Muslim than a Christian, in as much as at least they have some clear idea on this. So it's quite possible that the whole Western civilization will collapse under Islam, which actually it's not very auspicious, because Islam, it doesn't make a good atmosphere for understanding what is actual bhakti. That's a broad generalization. There are bhakti movements or something resembling that within Islam also, but the kind of Islam that's becoming popular all over the world is a very fanatical approach, actually. Anyway, these are very broad generalizations. The Islam that's most popular among young people in Pakistan is singing these ghazals. It's like devotional bhajans. It's more like bhakti. But the Islam that is famous all over the world is the one of terrorism and killing people and all this kind of thing. Anyway, it is a relevant question. It is very, it's a big issue actually in our ISKCON, because some devotees say they're more like, yes, we have to accommodate the homosexuals. It's a big issue in the Western world, and the churches, the governments are forcing the churches that you're not allowed to have a church unless you allow this marriage, homosexual marriage. They're forcing them.
Here this problem is not there.
Well, it's going to come. I'm telling you, it's going to come. The English press is promoting this in India. It's just like you couldn't imagine in India that the women would, they'd dress like prostitutes and act like prostitutes. You couldn't imagine it 20 years ago. But by propaganda it's come. And all the young girls are walking around, with all their breasts showing, and then holding hands with the men in public. And you couldn't imagine, but by propaganda it's come. So it'll come here also. In Vellore also now you see young girls in jeans and everything. Everything will come by bad propaganda. Unless we preach this Krishna consciousness very strongly. But the force of Kali Yuga is very powerful. And these feminists and homosexuals, they're not content that we already spoiled America. He doesn't want to talk about it because it's not an issue in most people's minds. But they're insisting that this has to be all over the world. In the colleges, in the universities in India, they're promoting all this. What to speak here in the schools in Vellore, you'll see the so-called prestigious schools. All the boys and girls are mixing up and having illicit sex and everything. So look at. So the whole culture is being spoiled. So we have to preach within our movement also. You'll see nowadays the girls they get married. Before they marry, they tell the boy one condition: I'm not going to live with your parents. And if they live with them, they won't follow the mother-in-law at all. They'll fight with them. Even our own devotees. They're spoiled. This idea, I have to have a career. They don't want to get married even. They want to have a career, the girls. It's bizarre. The whole thing's crazy. You see girls, they're like, 20, 29, 30, they're not married. They're old enough to be grandmothers, but they never even got married. Anyway, that's another big discussion. That's more, we're talking about all these intimate exchanges with Krishna, but the actual situation is more desperate. That's only something we're talking about, but the actual situation is that the whole culture's gone to hell, and we're trying. It's like there's a big tide of Kali Yuga, and we're trying to push it back. Yeah, so preach, distribute books, introduce people to this Krishna consciousness. We better go and preach in all these villages also. Otherwise, within 10 years, they'll all be Christian. They'll all be eating beef, and they'll all be anti-Krishna and anti-everything. Now if we go there enthusiastic, if you go in 10 years, they'll hate you. They'll drive you out of town. They'll be converted to Christianity. Maybe 5 years, or 2 years, or 1 year, just when they go, because there's no one to guide them. So they come in and say, you become a Christian and we'll give you money. Even Krishna's becoming disappointed. So they need some spiritual leadership, some guidance. In Bangladesh, we were going around and preaching. This was late 1970s, early 1980s. And one Hindu social worker there told us that, because we were Western devotees going around and we were chanting Hare Krishna in public programs. We didn't speak Bengali hardly at that time. But one Hindu social worker told us that because we're just going around and they see Western people chanting Hare Krishna, he said, wherever we go, the tendency for them to convert to Christianity just stops. And even people already converted, they convert back. Yeah, you can say that. So we were like teasing this Hindu social worker. We said, well, maybe it's better they're Christian. At least they go to church once a week. The Christians, they're eating meat, but the Hindus are all eating meat, so, maybe it's better they're a Christian. So then he said, yeah, but if they remain Hindu, then they'll say the name Gauranga. If they're not, If they're Christian, they won't say Gauranga, so we agreed, yes, better they remain a Hindu. Gauranga! Finish that. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Who was there at that program last night? Who came yesterday? Yeah? Ladies can put their hands up too. They're not banned from putting their hands up. Very good program, huh?